Hi everyone, it's Dr. Jen Kordonsky, and tonight's class is about core strength. And core strength is not just about abs. This class is really important for those of you who have experienced low back pain, are currently dealing with back pain, or who just don't ever want to have back pain. Everyone knows that the core musculature is very important for protecting the lower back. So we're going to teach you what you need to do tonight. Now, even though it's common knowledge that the core muscles are important for the health of the spine, a lot of people get this wrong, even very knowledgeable people. First of all, we want to clear up some misconceptions. I already said the core is not just about abs. Your core is all of the muscles that support your spine, your hips, the muscles of the glutes, the extensor muscles of the back, the abdominal muscles. These all come together to form the core musculature. And the core musculature is going to support and keep your spinal alignment as you move and do your daily activities. You reach and you get something off of a high shelf, you bend over, even getting out of bed. Your core muscles are what protect you from creating misalignments in your spine, creating wear and tear in the spinal joints, the SI joints. Without a strong core, you are going to be able to do damage to your body through everyday activities. Core muscles are also going to help you support good posture, which of course helps you to look better. It helps you to maintain your height, protect the spine from wearing out and shrinking as you age. Anyone who's involved in any athletic pursuit wants a truly strong core because that will help you in any endeavor. You'll be faster, you'll be stronger, you'll compete better, you'll perform better in any athletic endeavor if the core muscles are strong. But like I said, people go about this the wrong way. They forget that it's not just the rectus abdominis that forms the core. They forget that flexibility is just as important as strength, if not more important. And we have to put flexibility first, because if a muscle or a joint isn't moving properly, isn't maximally flexible, the muscle will never be optimally strong. And the problem is, if a joint doesn't move properly, then it's going to throw off our mechanics no matter what we do. And for that reason, and a few others, we do want to start with good spinal alignment. So I want you to share this video with anyone you know who is struggling with back issues. But it's really important for me to clarify that strengthening the core around the misalignment may give you partial results. It may give you temporary relief of your symptoms, but unfortunately, it could actually build in the alignment problem. So if we strengthen the muscles around an imbalanced or poorly aligned spine, then it can make it harder in the long run to fix the problem. And when your body is out of alignment, we know we wouldn't drive a car out of alignment. Using your body out of alignment is going to accelerate wear and tear. Even if it's feeling great, it's prematurely breaking it down. So we want to start with a healthy alignment. Couple of quick tips if you are not already a chiropractic patient or under a chiropractor's care. How do I know if I'm out of alignment? Well, one thing you might want to do is take a look in a full-length mirror and just stand in your bare feet and take a look and see if you can notice a difference in the height of your hips. You know, one hip may look higher than the other. The other thing you want to look for is if your arms are relaxed at your sides, if you notice a larger space between one arm and one hip, that could indicate that the hips are out of alignment, that your body is out of alignment. If you have a partner, you could lie face down on a bed and have them look at the bottom of your feet. If one leg, so you take out the little tilt that happens when your feet are relaxed, make them as if they were standing, your feet flat. When you hold the feet flat, when you're laying face down, face right into the mattress, if one leg looks longer than the other, that's another indicator that your body might be out of alignment. Ideally, it's best to have a chiropractor evaluate you, but if you just wanted some ways to self-assess or check someone in your household, there's a few things for you to try. But once we are correctly aligned, you've been working through your chiropractic care, we definitely want to make sure the core muscles get the proper retraining so that we don't recreate the misalignments. If you've already had a back issue, especially a degenerative disc or SI joint problems, bulging discs, herniated discs, the core has to be addressed. So as important as chiropractic is, if we just adjusted you and you did nothing to protect or to train the core muscles, then you're setting yourself up for the problem to reoccur. And it could literally be just little things that you do. You don't have to be going crazy. You don't have to be hurting yourself in any way, but just every time you bend, every time you move, if the core is unstable or not strong enough, or the muscles are too tight, then we could be creating those misalignments again. So the two things have to go together. Good, healthy alignment through chiropractic and retraining of the core muscles. Now, I mentioned that we often forget about the flexibility of a muscle and the joints. So when we are addressing core strength and protecting your spinal alignment, the hips are particularly problematic. Very often we spend a lot of time sitting, and when we sit, we're creating flexion in the hips. So we tend to get tight hip flexors. Makes sense, right? It also creates weakening of the glute muscles. So very few of us don't spend a lot of time sitting, whether it be at a computer or in the car. So it's pretty rampant that people have tight hip flexors and weak glute muscles. Even if you train and you exercise and you're doing squats and things like that, it could be that those muscles aren't fully engaged. So we want to correct that first. So very important that we start with hip flexor flexibility. Now you can look up, and if you would like a handout of these particular stretches, just contact us and we'll get it to you. But the three main stretches that we're going to do are going to start with the hip flexor stretch. So you're going to want to go down into a lunge position. Now it's very important that you know what neutral posture is, and we keep neutral posture when we're doing a hip flexor stretch. I know you might not be able to see me that well, but ideally my ear is lined up with my shoulder lined up with my hip. I'm not really arching my back. I'm not letting my head come forward. So on our handout, if you can see, there's a gentleman with a yardstick or a broomstick along his back. We want to keep a really straight neutral posture as we lunge down and feel a stretch in the front of your hip or your groin. Now, if you look at the spine, I want you to know that the hip flexor or the iliopsoas muscle anchors directly to your lumbar vertebra. It crosses over the pelvis, so this is underneath all of your organs, crosses over the pelvis and attaches your leg to your upper body. But it's important that you remember it's attaching directly to your lumbar vertebra. So if you have a tight or imbalanced hip flexor muscle, this is going to create subluxations, misalignments in your lumbar spine. When we have misalignments in the lumbar spine, it's impacting the nerves that pass through here. So that's going to impact the muscles. Nerves innervate muscles, and that could impact the strength or the flexibility of the muscles. But also remember, those nerves are supplying your body with the electrical information, the communication from the brain that's necessary for optimal function. So you may think, oh, I just have tight hips. No, this is your body we're talking about. Your spine is the main information superhighway. So we've got to take really good care of it, starting with good, healthy, flexible hip flexors. If this stretch is really simple for you and you're not feeling it much, then we can extend back a little bit. Then we could lean the body away from that side and create a longer distraction of that muscle. So that's stretch number one. Stretch number two is I like to call the figure four, and there's different versions of it. But figure four, if you sit with good posture, spinal neutral, and you cross the legs like a figure four, and then you let the hip drop. So if your hips are tight, you might be crossed, but the knee is up like this. And you're gonna wanna work on stretching it and letting it get level or horizontal. So once we're there, then you're going to hinge forward at the hips, not slumping forward. Don't round out your low back, but hinge forward at the hips and feel that stretch in the glute, and that's gonna open up the hips. Now, those of you, most people are gonna feel a little difference from one side to the other, but many people are gonna be so tight that when they cross their legs like this, not only will it not go down all the way, but you'll lose that spinal neutral. You'll kind of go like this. So that's part of it, is working on getting the flexibility to be able to be completely straight up and down and level across, just like that, okay? And then we hinge forward. In yoga, there's a move called the pigeon that is just this same stretch, same formation, but it's a bit more advanced. So you're face down. So if you know the move, that's the move you're gonna wanna do. Another modification of that would be on your back to cross the legs like the figure four and hug the knee to the chest. So find what works for you. If you find that when you cross like this, you're really tight and you do this, it might be better to be flat on your back. It just helps. Let me know if you have any particular questions about that. Next on our list of 3 stretches is the deep squat. So like I said, most of us spend quite a bit of time sitting, and so we are flexing our hips to maybe about 90 degrees. It's rare for us in our culture to go into the deep squat all the way down. If you watch a toddler, toddlers do it instinctively. They'll be just walking along and they want to play with something on the ground, so they drop down into a deep squat. Watch their form too. It's instinctively perfect. They're going to, and it's going to be hard for me to demonstrate and for you to see everything. So make sure that you look up, just do a Google search for proper squat form. So we're going to pay attention to spinal neutral. The hips go back first. The ear is still in line with the shoulder is still in line with the hip. Okay, and then we drop down into a deep squat. Now, you may have to watch or work your way into this. If you have not gone into a deep squat since you were a toddler, there's probably quite a bit of scar tissue and tightness in those hip joints. The idea is we've got to work through it, right? If we don't, then the hip joint will degenerate prematurely. So all joints need to be nourished, and the fluid within a joint capsule, everywhere 2 bones come together in your body is a joint, and there's cartilage in between to cushion, and there's fluid in there to cushion, and there's a capsule around the joint. So we need to move that fluid all around the joint to keep the joint healthy. With the hips, if we only ever sit down and stand up, we never really move that joint fluid around the whole joint. We develop adhesions and scar tissue. We lose range of motion in what's meant to be a ball and socket joint to have a lot of range of motion. We lose that range of motion, and the hip is not getting nourished, and it can begin to degenerate. Besides the fact that most people have their body out of alignment and they're creating wear and tear that way. So before we do any core strengthening, we have to begin with the stretching. And some people may need to do that for 2 weeks before you begin any kind of strengthening. You may need to just be working daily on the flexibility. If you did all 3 of those stretches every single day, it's going to take you no more than 3 minutes. Those are things that can be done at your desk. They can be done while you're taking breaks from sitting, because if you've come to fit while you sit, you know that the research tells us that when we sit longer than 20 minutes, there is a detrimental effect on our health. So breaking up the amount of time we spend sitting will be ideal. So here's 3 stretches that can be the interruption to your sitting. Set that timer and say, oh, it's time for me to do my hip flexor stretch. It's time for me to do my deep squat. Starting there. Once we have flexibility improving, then we can start working on the strength. but not just of the rectus abdominis. So most people go into working on core strength by doing crunches or sit-ups, leg lifts, things that compress or contract the body like this. It's actually the worst thing for us because most of us are developing flexion postural distortions, right? From sitting at the computer, from driving. So a lot of us, our bodies are already going like this. We don't need any help in strengthening the rectus abdominis to crunch us forward, okay? And if we do just those type of abdominal exercises, we can be stressing the neck, stressing the back. And worse than that, most people are doing those sort of exercises because they want their abs to look better. And unfortunately, if we just work the rectus abdominis, that could actually make your belly look more bulgy because it's the transverse abdominis that pulls it in. And if we don't get that muscle strong, then our core is not going to be strong. It won't protect our low back, and our abs won't look the way we want them to. Just so everyone knows, whether or not you ever have a six-pack has nothing to do with your core strength. That has more to do with your genetics. It has more to do with how much body fat is overlying your muscles. And that's not what this class is about. This class is about your body being strong and healthy, regardless of what it looks like. So, we don't want to do just rectus abdominis exercises. We want to start with the transversus abdominis. And that muscle, think of it like saran wrap across your belly. It holds all the organs in. So what we're going to do for that may seem super simple, especially if you are already someone who's working out. It may feel like a step back to go do this exercise, but it's so important to start from square one. If we don't build the strength from the bottom layer up, we're not going to have the results that we're after. We're not going to protect our spine the way we want to. So we start with the very, very simple pelvic tilt. So laying on your back, flat on your back with your knees bent, you just tilt the pelvis so you're kind of pressing your low back into the ground. You want to feel like you're sucking in your belly button. And if you want to feel the right muscle, what you should do is feel where your hip bones are, come in a little bit, and then cough. You'll feel that muscle kind of clench up. You don't want to be crunching, but you'll feel the lower abdominal muscle. That's what you want to feel. So when you're in that pelvic tilt position, you're pressing your back to the floor, you're sucking in your belly button, you're feeling that transverse abdominis contract. So on our instructions, we suggest that you do it lying on the floor. Once you get the hang of it, you can contract that muscle standing, sitting, and you should do it as regularly as you can to bring the neurological connection to that muscle, to get it used to being used, to get it activated all the time. That's the muscle that's going to be the most protective for your lumbar spine. Once we have that, then we also want to strengthen the glute muscles and the extensor muscles. So if you ask us for this little workout, core strengthening, what I have you doing next is a glute bridge. Again, it's really hard for me to demonstrate these exercises, so I'm going to have you request this. But first, we're going to engage the transverse abdominis. You may already be at home doing glute bridges, doing weighted glute bridges, one-legged glute bridges, but if you're not doing it with the transverse abdominis engaged, then it's not going to be as effective for strengthening the core muscles. We want to get the transverse abdominis engaged and then do the glute bridge to get the glute muscle and the hamstring muscle working at the same time. It all works together. Then we have a fun exercise called the dead bug. Can't demonstrate for you, but after that we're going to begin engaging planks. So there's a series, we work through this one step at a time. We cannot forget alignment, we cannot forget flexibility first, and we cannot forget that we have to work in order. So once we get through those first couple of exercises and we're getting stronger at them, we're getting better at them, then we can start engaging planks. Planks are one of my all-time favorite exercises from a chiropractic perspective, because they're engaging all of the muscles all at once if done properly, and you're doing it in spinal neutral, ideally. Now, people mess that up a lot. So when you get down in plank position, many people are tempted to let their head hang forward, right? And they're just focusing on their abs. Many people will look all the way up in front of them, arching or craning their neck. Think about what ideal posture is. Think about spinal neutral. Remember, my head is not out here, my head is here. My ear is pulled back in line with my shoulder. My shoulders aren't rounded forward, they are down and back. So when you get down in that plank position, think about your posture. Yes, you're engaging your abs, but roll your shoulders back. Lock that into place. Pull your head back, lock that into place, and you're engaging all of the postural muscles, getting a really strong core and a healthy spine at the same time. Once you master the plank, then we do side plank, right? That will further activate the transverse abdominis. And then once you master that, there's all kinds of really fun, torturous plank exercises, plank jacks, mountain climbers, all of that, but we have to get the form right first so that we are not hurting ourselves while we do this work. Again, please just ask for this handout. We can email it to you, or we can hand it to you at the office. Let us know if you need help with any of this. But this is definitely important. I want you to share this information with anyone you know that's dealing with back pain, because they may be looking for solutions and looking to do this core workout or this or that, and forget the order of operations: flexibility first and getting that transverse abdominis engaged first before we go to the other levels. And in fact, as far as crunches go, I think you can go without them entirely. It's definitely not something you want to add until you are through the initial corrective phases of your spinal care, and you've really maxed out the core foundational strengthening that you need to do. Then you can add those things in. But ultimately they can cause more harm than good. Crunches can really aggravate things that are going on with your spine. And I definitely don't want that for you. So that's what I have for you tonight. I know that if you implement this in addition with your chiropractic care, then you will get the best results possible. Remember, our goal is not to band-aid you. Our goal is to inspire you to take the next right action step to keep building on your health. And we see it here all the time, and I wish I could share, case studies with you where we have individuals who have been consistently caring for their spines for years. And every year they're still gaining, they're still seeing improvements, and it flies in the face of what the conventional thinking is, that every year that passes, I'll probably definitely be a little bit older, probably be a little stiffer, a little weaker, a little less capable. It has nothing to do with how old you are, what your body is capable of. It has to do with how you've cared for it. So make the choice today to do something that is going to build your health and keep moving you in the right direction. And I promise you, if you stick consistently with your chiropractic care, we just see it over and over again, that health can keep building. And it's just like exercise. You're never going to reach the limit of what it can do for you. So please reach out and let us know if you need anything. Have a great night.